And let's stick with agriculture for a second. I was in the DRC last week for the first time, and even in the relatively small part of the DRC we were focusing on, the need is just overwhelming. You know, the economy is more or less an agrarian economy based on subsistence farming. Most of the world's very poorest people are smallholder farmers, and they're disproportionately women. So the opportunity to boost incomes and change quality of life there is arguably greater than anywhere else. What else are you seeing in terms of models and trends in the ag sector in particular?
So I love some of the businesses we're working with in ag. So and yeah, that 65% of the people in Africa are working in farming, right? And the access to finance and access to mobile and access to technology, it's changing radically, but country by country it varies dramatically, and rural versus peri-urban changes dramatically. So Cherehani is one of the examples that I would use, and then aluminum greenhouses. So Cherehani is doing lending for productive assets. They are lending to women to get a sewing machine, to get a mobile phone, to get a agricultural equipment, and to de-risk that lending. For most of these women none of these women have a credit history of any kind. Most of them don't even have mobile phones. They're working with women who are already in worker collaboratives. So they're picking women, they're saying you have to be part of a worker collaborative, whether it's a sewing collaborative, it's a farming collaborative, whatever it might be. So it's a chance for them to de-risk by saying, if you can have evidence that you're part of this collaborative, we will lend you the money for a productive asset. And that will help you build a credit history, because now you're going to be, and it will start with a productive asset, but then it can be working capital. And so then laddering them up, and then now that they have a credit history, what else can you get them access to? And thinking about crop insurance and thinking about the other business insurance, the other things that they really need, leading into even things like how do they pay for school fees? And it can all start by saying, you know, where are these women? How do we make sure we're decreasing our risk? And how do we use, again, as I said, an old model of the collective, but in a new way? Aluminum greenhouses, it's a company that's doing greenhouses and smart agricultural inputs. They've realized that many of the women who are in their target audience can't afford a greenhouse. And so what they said was, maybe if we think about the collective model, maybe we get women sharing a greenhouse. Why should we assume that it has to be that one farmer, one greenhouse? And similarly, how do we use the financing mechanisms of group financing to really address that? And there are just so many examples like that. R&D innovation is another one in Nepal, where they're, again, putting in smart greenhouses, smart farming techniques. They're doing financial literacy training, agronomy training. They're doing entrepreneurial training. And they're enabling people to get access to a greenhouse and to those inputs by partnering with a microfinance institution, because they know they can't do everything. So I think part of what's also interesting is, what are the new partnerships that are getting created? And this is in a place where climate risk is significant. So this can enable people to do multi-cropping instead of single cropping. It can enable people to decrease their issues around climate risk, all by thinking about what are not only the agricultural inputs, but also how do we do the financing piece? And then also, now that we've got them on a mobile device, which again, most of these women don't start that way, and we get them the training, now can we get them access to the best pricing for their crops, and knowing what crops are needed at the market at what point? And so just starting to really layer in other elements.